scrappy people. Tracy Reed here today, coming at you with another layout in my Think Outside the 12 by 12 series. This is episode number 8, and today we are going to be talking about maximizing the Traveler's Notebook size, paper size. So Traveler's Notebook paper size is 8.25 by 4.25, which is what I sell on as a solo pack in my store for all of my collections. So there are different ways that you can do this. Obviously you can do it with all the different kinds of like paper blocking styles, but I actually want to talk about the length of 8.25 on a 12 by 12 layout. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of borders here sticking out from underneath my paper, or underneath my photo on this paper. I'm going to double mat this 12 by 12. So there's navy around the outside, and then I'm going to have a bunch of borders coming out this way. Now there's all different kinds of border shapes that you can do. You can do scallops, you can do zigzags, you can do straight edge paper strips, any sort of border punch that you have, pinking shears, anything like that will work for this. I specifically wanted to do scalloped borders, and since I don't have a scalloped border punch, I actually sent my solid papers through the silhouette machine and cut that out a bunch of scalloped borders in all of the different solid papers. And I'm going to use these on this layout, and I'm going to actually trim down these patterned papers to be paper strips. So that is where I'm starting. I'm also wanting to incorporate some mixed media in here. So I think most of this is going to be covered up, so I think I want to just maybe do some watercoloring along the top edges. I'm not quite sure in what color yet. I might do a mix of yellow and green, but that is where my thought process is, so let's get started. Boy howdy did I lean into the mixed media. Now for me, mixed media is always a hot mess before it looks better, and so since I don't really know what I'm doing, I'm just, applying some ink pad paint and letting it slop everywhere, and this was turning out really yellow, like way more yellow than I had wanted it to. I think I used the wrong yellow ink pad, and so at this point I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's wipe some of it off and then add some more layers so that maybe it gets a little bit darker, and it did, but it's still like this odd mustardy color and I'm not loving it. I decided to add some blue dots, and of course, since everything is still wet, they kind of smear everywhere, so I wiped them off too, and I'm like, okay, let's just take this paper towel and wipe blue everywhere. I knew that the middle of this was going to be covered up, so I'm really just basically looking at the edges here to see what I think about it. I tried this green as well, but it just kind of looked black when I dropped it on there, and since I didn't want to wipe it off, I just tried it in the middle first. So I'm going to use the dryer to dry this off, and then I'm going to add some texture paste through this stencil that I have from the Our Baby Girl collection that I created for Echo Park paper. And I decided to mount it on the blue cardstock first so that the texture paste would overlap the blue edges a little bit. I'm just going to do it in the top corner and the bottom corner. And of course, my texture paste was nearly almost dried out, so I have to really dig for it, and it's very thick. But that's okay because it made it less messy for me. If it was nice and gloppy, I probably would have screwed this up because I'm terrible at mixed media, if you don't know. But I keep trying, I keep persevering. So I've got all of this done now. I'm just going to add a little bit more to the edge here, and most of this gets covered up as well, but I actually really like the way that that looks. It came out very cute, and it made the rest of this page feel better for me. So again, I'm going to cover almost all of this up. You can see how much the photo covers up. So I'm going to use these border strips as well. We're going nearly edge to edge here, so you're just getting a hint of the mixed media on the outside edges. Otherwise, I probably would have started over and tried again, but because I knew that it was almost all going to be covered up, I was happy with it and fine. So I'm going to cut all of these paper strips into either an inch or an inch and a half. I want all of these patterns, and I'm going to disperse them all the way down the page, sort of interacting with the borders. So the scallops are going to be evenly spaced all the way down the page. And then the different heights of these borders, these pattern borders, are going to vary the composition so that it doesn't look too linear like it would if I was using just the even spacing of the scallops. So I'm just going to add a bunch of, I was going to add a bunch of tape to the back of the photo and actually work the scallops down the photo, but then I decided that that was too much work and I'm just going to go ahead and start putting down the paper strips instead. I'm just going to trim all of these since they're going to go way underneath the photo in order to not overlap that blue border. So I'm just trimming them down since I added so much adhesive. So I thought maybe I would do, you know, top and bottom and then work my way up and down so that they were all evenly spaced. But then I decided that that was just not going to work the way that I wanted it to. So instead I'm going to start with the paper strips and I'm just going to work them all the way down the page and then put my scallops over the top like a normal and sane person. So I want the paper strips not only to be different widths, but also to stick out different places on the page. So like some are going to stick out farther than others. Again, this adds the variable underneath the scallops that are all going to be evenly spaced and evenly distanced to the edge to add a little bit more visual interest and to just not make everything so perfect. We've got some crazy mixed media going on in the background, so not everything needs to be perfect here. I also decided that when I was putting these down, I had one less than I needed, so I'm just going to cut that stripe in half and use both sides of it instead of bothering with another patterned paper. Now I knew that that could be up from the edge a little bit because I was going to put the scallop at the bottom, so I just moved it up to decrease the amount of space I had to fill in between. And this actually caused a little bit of a problem, not a huge problem, but when I put this down, I was overlapping with the stripes more than I had wanted to. So I thought maybe I would move everything around, but then I decided just to trim the stripe horizontally so that it was 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches, and that worked perfectly. I also pulled out the gray wood grain away from the photo a little bit so it stuck out farther, and you can see that there's a little bit of a blank space there. Not a big deal because I'm going to put a journaling card there or a designer card, so it won't you won't be able to see it anyway. So now I get the lovely task of making sure that all of these are evenly distributed. I almost immediately took out the lightest yellow or lightest green and lightest blue because I decided that that was too many and those were like the least colorful, so we're going to just omit them from the design. And I decided that one was just a little too long and this one too, so we're just going to move it up a little bit. So you can see that my scallops did not actually get evenly distributed to the edge. I decided while I was designing this page that I didn't actually want them to all go exactly to the edge. So some of them, they're not as staggered as the papers, but some of them are farther in than other ones. So I have all of these word bits that are solid colored, but I like the length of them, the horizontal length of them when compared to the paper strips. So we're just going to embed them in the paper strips and anchor them with these hearts. So I also like these shoes too. I thought that they were cute with the composition. So I'm just going to start putting these down. And I kept feeling like, yes, this is adorable and I like the way that it's coming out, but it just was like not done. You can see as I start putting things down, I kind of fuss with everything and like I don't love the way that things are getting framed. This heart was driving me insane. Where do I put it? Do I put it here? Do I put it here? It ends up sitting there for a few minutes and then I move it a little bit more. It's actually the paper strip that was bugging me because the heart was sticking out the bottom of the shoes and the paper strip was sort of cutting that off. But then when I put it down again, there's not enough heart showing. It's just like the little fussy things that I think about when I am scrapbooking that really just don't make that much of a difference, except they do for me. The visual balance really is important for me. So when things are not quite aligning the way that I want them to, it's gonna bug me. My little perfectionist tendencies come out. I love the idea of double matting all of these hearts, or double hearting all of these hearts. Well, a big one and a small one, but I didn't do that down in the bottom corner. So I'm like, where do I put this heart? I can't double heart it. So I put one up here instead, and then I'm going to take one of these little ones and I'm going to use liquid glue and I'm going to double heart the smaller heart up in the corner instead. Maybe. Can't decide. It's definitely going to go up there. There we go. And I adjusted the heart down there that was hidden too much. I pulled out some color cast acrylic that I had in my stash. It says blessed. I thought it went really well in those stripes because it's nice and curvy, and so it breaks up all of that linear stripe. Then the last thing I did was take some Spiegel Mom scrap sequins that she designed for my weekender class that I'm teaching at Ready, Set, Create. I had a couple of extra packs, so I decided to add them in little clumps, and that really finished this off well. So if you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you. If you don't already, you can follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Traci and Rita. I'd love to see you over there as well, and I will see you next time. Thank you.